So here is what's being reported. I want to preference everything. Allegedly, all this is allegedly. Okay?
Allegedly.
Although there are videos too, you guys can go seek them out. But this is allegedly. Okay, so James Pearce Jr. was arrested. You guys remember James Pearce Jr. was on our draft board last year. We talked about it. He had a very high grade, first round grade. One of those guys that, man, if he falls to us where we're picking at, makes a lot of sense to go nab him. He's an elite talent. As long, and we always said this, as long as the personal stuff checks out. Again, we don't ding people on our board when things like this happen. We simply try to bring, hey, you guys do your own research. And of course, the teams, they literally have, former FBI agents and things like that are going behind and doing private eye investigation on these prospects, right? They're digging into everything to make sure they uncover anything and everything that they can. So obviously, at least one team didn't remove James Pearce Jr. from their board, and that was the Atlanta Falcons. They obviously signed him. So listen, I'm not making light of any of this. I'll do the best I can with my voice inflection. I know it's still going to piss people off in the comments, but we're going to talk about it because it's important. Ari Miroff was the first one I seen report on this. He put a tweet out that said, Falcons defensive end James Pearce Jr. was arrested Saturday in Florida on charges including 2 counts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, aggravated stalking, and fleeing/eluding the police. Pearce was taken into custody after crashing his vehicle following a police chase. Okay, so that's what Ari put out there. There's all kinds of rumors that he tried to hit someone with the car. That was the, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. I don't know if that's, you guys do your own research here. The point is he was arrested. Okay. And what's crazy is like just a night or two before he was at the NFL honors. Like he was there on the red carpet and everything was fine. And again, this is something that's obvious. There was smoke going into the draft. We told everybody, do your own research, okay? And then you come to the determination. We actually had a Vols insider on the show. He came in and was like, yeah, I think there's more smoke than fire here. That's the vibe I got coming out of that interview, and I'll just leave it at that. Again, we had him on because he's closer to the situation, right? So ML Football put a tweet out as well. Report Falcons defensive end James Pearce Jr. allegedly intentionally drove into a police officer and hit the officer's knee as he was trying to get away, per Fox. James is also being accused of intentionally crashing his Lamborghini into his girlfriend's car multiple times to stop her. So obviously the dude, if this is true, allegedly, he temporarily lost his mind there and was trying to physically harm people with a vehicle. Not a good look for James Pearce Jr. Now, why are we talking about this, guys? Again, he was very high on the board, and you got to make that determination. Is it worth it to take a risk on a player like that? But many people looked at the PFF grade and said, we didn't have a great year. Is it really worth the headache? Blah, blah. He did win Rookie of the Month there at the end of the season. So this isn't like it's just a, let me put it this way, Jacob. If this was a backup player, he'd already be off the team. We know that. If he wasn't a first-round pick, he would already be off the team. So with all that being said, the fact that he's got talent, that's why some of these guys get this kind of skate by when allegedly things like this happen, right? So, again, he had 5.5 sacks in 5 games. He was your NFL Defensive Rookie of the Month there. I want to say it was for December, I believe it was. But anyway, when you look at our draft board from last year, Jacob, we had him with I'm trying to see the final grade. We have it sorted right. We did. The final grade was a 13.6. So that's saying he's a top 15 talent, essentially, right? And we weren't the only ones. The consensus big board had him at 13. PFF big board had him at 29. The grades looked good. Daniel Jeremiah had him at 20. 33rd team had him at 13. Dane Brugler had him at 21. His RAS was through the roof. You guys remember he was an undersized edge defender, but he's a quick twitch, speed rusher type guy. He played Leo at the University of Tennessee, which is a hybrid backer. It's kind of like Viper for Notre Dame. All these different coaches, for whatever reason, they want to change the names and make it all cutesy fartsy. But it's essentially a backer that you'll either play on the field side or on the boundary side, depending on your defensive scheme. And 1 second they're rushing, then they'll drop into coverage. So the big knock on James Pearce Jr. is why didn't he have more production? And obviously that's because he played Leo, where he was fires on blitz and dropping out into coverage, things like that from time to time. So again, that's where he sat on our board. Greg Cosell, I gave him a 0. Greg Cosell, I remember this. And again, isn't it funny, Jacob? This always, when we refer back to Greg Cosell, it's so rare that you go, Greg got that one wrong. It just seems like always he's on it, right?
He's the GOAT, bro.
Yeah. And again, here's what I love about not James Pearce Jr. This is what I love about Greg Cosell. Greg Cosell always says, guys, this is strictly watching the tape. This has nothing to do with personal issues. I let the team, that's where I learned that process from. It's like, get that out of your mind. Let the teams handle that. They'll determine whether they can draft them or not. We're just grading the players, right? So with James Pearce Jr., I specifically remember him saying, you can't come into the National Football League. It's so rare that you come into the National Football League and your superpower is speed. You're just a speed guy. You're just a quick twitch guy. Tackles are good enough in the National Football League to stop that. You've got to be able to rush with power. That's why when we break down a prospect and we got a cluster of 3 pass rushing edge defenders, I'm always going to side with, give me the power rusher. Who is the guy I've defended for a long time, and he continues to lead the Packers in sacks and pressure percentage and everything year in and year out before we got Micah. It was Rashawn Gary. Why? Why am I so high on Gary? Gary rushes with power. That's why he's made as much money as he has in the league. That's why he's been as successful as he's been in the league. It's why he's been the Packers' top edge rusher for multiple years now, is he's a power rusher. Now, it's starting to catch up with him. Looks like it's, coming to the end here with our boy Rashawn Gary. We'll see if he's on the roster at a pay cut or what have you by the time we get to the new league calendar year here. But, yeah, so that's the thing that stood out to me about what Greg Cosell said about James Pearce Jr. was he doesn't rush with power, and when he gets to the league, I think he'll struggle. Well, his PFF grade ended up being 57.8, but also that's the negative, right? It's borderline getting to that 60 mark, right, that we talk about. But winning Defensive Rookie of the Month there coming down the stretch was a big thing as well. Again, I want to be very clear. We're talking football strictly here. If you're asking me, Clayton, if he's guilty of that stuff, you're still okay with having him on your football team? Absolutely freaking not. No, if he's guilty. All this is alleged. It's early in the process, but it does not look good for James Pearce Jr. Jacob, what's your thoughts on this? Anything you want to add there? Because it is, man, this is stuff that you got to kind of talk about and cover.
Yeah, it is. And, we, like you said, we try to highlight these things in the draft, the pre-draft process, and we try not to label people with certain monikers because – again, there's always this kind of like chess game that's going on about people maybe trying to increase or decrease a person's draft stock, right? We've talked about that many times. It seems like maybe this one, there was just a little bit of more, like you said, fire than the smoke. So it's, if this proves to be true, it's tough to try to rebound from that. And let's be honest, man. I mean, these guys are, if you're asking you to be an absolute psychopath on the field and then all of a sudden turn it off the field, it's like it kind of comes with the game, man. These dudes are absolute freaks in nature, and they are out there throwing it out, 100 miles per hour every single game, and that's not an excuse whatsoever, but it is something to be said that like these guys got a lot of testosterone running around. So like and from what it does sound about the Lambo stuff, I mean, it's just it's tough, man. And I pray for the kid. I hope that he has a resurgence
and
if
the
he
victim.
can.
And the victim.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like sometimes, gosh, I don't know about you guys. I know you've been blessed to be with Mandy. I've had some crazy exes. It sucks. Every now and then they make you kind of go wild. But like, dude, to do something like that is just allegedly, seems just. Some people can push your buttons, and you got to learn from that. And you have to understand that, like, don't let that happen. Do not let that. It's the same thing I'll always say. Get yourself out of the situation. I was just going to say, it's kind of like the guys that are driving. Have a driver, man. You're being paid millions of dollars. Get yourself a driver. Don't be driving drunk. Don't do stupid crap like that. Like, come on.
It's the same thing. We just seen it recently with Rasheed Walker. I think the majority of our viewers, just based on the comments, were saying that's a big nothing burger. He reported it. He done everything he was supposed to do. And then, and then we've got other people, I won't mention their names, but we've got people that watch the show that have very, very high clearance backgrounds. Okay. Let's just leave it at that. And they're like, yeah, man, on the surface, it sucks, but that's the law. Like you've got to know that going in. That's on you. You can't just assume that an airport employee is going to cover your ass on that, right? Like these things come into play big time. Whether you think it's breaching a constitutional right, I get that side. I get that side completely, man. You guys probably caught on by now that I think our whole political system is just screwed on both sides. I think it's absolute trash. It's like common sense is gone today. no matter what party it is, right?
Agreed.
So I get the people that are, well, it's my constitution, I got all that. But like you said, Jacob, you've got all the money in the world. Just be smart. Protect yourself on that. It's such a stupid thing to potentially hurt your stock on, is because you tried to illegally.
It's just such an easy fix. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's
right.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, and Packer Doug makes a great point here. He said, Mike Z, that's a fair point. Yet some fans complain the Packers aren't tough or physical enough. A lot of your tougher players have this rough edge to the psyches. It's a fine line. I could not agree. I know I've got several friends, several close buddies who have seen serious combat situations overseas in the military. All right. Marines that have been, they have seen things that I pray for them all the time, because I couldn't imagine trying to live with the things that they've had to see. Right. But you know what I notice about those friends too? They'll do anything in the world for you. They're some of my closest buddies, but boy, do they tick a little different. They tick a little different, and they can go 0 to 100 in a second. They have to have that to do the job that they did to keep our freedom and, keep us protected here on the home front. With all that being said, it's like, I think Packer Doug just nailed that. There's a fine line there. There's a very fine line. But I know this, once that line's crossed and you harm a female, you harm a child, you harm, anything like that, I don't want you nowhere near my football team. I want to pretend like you do not exist. Not that you don't deserve forgiveness, not that you don't deserve, we all don't deserve grace and this and that.
We're all sinners, man.
I'm telling you, have got to protect. I was raised, and this is just me, you protect women and children at all costs. I don't care what the situation is. They are to be protected. And you know what? If like you kind of said, if it is a rare situation where someone's causing the problems, get the hell away from them. You know what you can do? You can lower the ego, call 911 and say, hey, I need this person away from me because I'm going to get in trouble and I'm trying to remove myself from the situation. Please help me. You can do that too, but most of the time, guys obviously have an ego and don't want to do that. So anyway, I don't want this to turn into a psychology program or whatever the proper terminology is here, and trying to understand why people do the things they do, especially in the age of CTE. Like, we know that's a factor in some of these situations.
Yeah.
So it's just tough, man. But anyway, I hate hitting this drama-filled stuff on the show, but I thought it was worth hitting on because, again, it's draft season. There's probably going to be a prospect or two that these things are going to surface as we come down the stretch, right? So we just need to log it. We need to probably mark something on our board just to go, hey, look into it. We're not going to ding the score, but just say, hey, maybe a question mark, like there's personal stuff there, because again, there was some people in the media that were all over this early, and they have been proven right for sure. So
I kind of like what Ron says here. He goes, these are 20-something young, years-old men. They should almost be expected to make dumb decisions. I wouldn't say expected, but when you put a lot of money with a bunch of people that maybe have never had money before, like, again, that's something to where you just got to have to, if you weren't raised right, it's going to hurt, man. When you get that much money, you get that much power, you get that much ego. That's what I think we've talked about here on this podcast, is that, like, put the ego aside. Put the ego aside. Understand that you're, like I said, just a sinner like every single one of us, and just try to, I hope he gets back and gets some help and figures it out, man.
Yeah. And like I said, I also hope, everybody's safe there that was involved in that whole situation. 2-0 for this says, we need more guys like Palomalo. It's a switch that flips into a killer when he gets on the field, but notoriously a nice person off the field. Palomalo is such a rare breed. I remember they asked him, do you pray before game? He said, I pray before every game. He said, I pray that I stay healthy. He said, more importantly, I pray for the person I'm going up against, because I'm trying to harm them. You know what I mean? Like, he said it so calmly, like, yeah, that dude, he's a different breed. And I think that's a great point there, 2-0 for this, that he can kind of flip that switch for sure. But if you guys are watching this back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about the draft process when it comes to these players that may have character issues? Are you a little more, give them a shot, and if they screw up, cut them off the team? Or are you hey, we need to spend a lot of extra time doing due diligence and make sure you don't end up with a roster full of players that may do something to harm other people and obviously hurt your team down the stretch? Hit us up in the comments what you think about it. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you catch future live streams. All right, Jacob,